If you're building out a home theater or media room using a Roku as your streaming source, you're probably wondering if there's anything that you can do to squeeze out a little bit more performance. Maybe you just picked up a new TV or a projector, or maybe you've invested in a surround sound system or Dolby Atmos soundbar, and you want to be sure that your Roku isn't holding anything back. Well, the good news is Roku can absolutely be a great part of your setup. But just like with any piece of gear, the right settings and setup can make all the difference. So let's break everything down that you need to know to get the best video and audio quality from your Roku, no matter what kind of setup that you're working with. Now, if you want a checklist to follow along with this video, check out the article that I'll link down in the description below. Now first, let's start with the basics. When it comes to performance, not all Rokus are actually created equal. If you want the best possible picture and sound quality, the Roku Ultra is still the top dog. It supports 4K resolution, HDR10, HDR10+, Dolby Vision, and even Dolby Atmos audio. It also has an Ethernet port for a hardwired connection, which can really help with consistent 4K streaming. The Roku streaming sticks are a solid runner-up and could be great for smaller setups or secondary TVs, but if you've got a projector or a big TV or an Atmos-capable sound system, we'd recommend springing for the Ultra all day long. All right, now before you do anything else, go to the settings, go to System, Software Update, and check for any updates. Roku devices update automatically in the background, but it's always a good idea to manually check when you're setting things up or troubleshooting. Having the latest firmware ensures you're getting support for the newest features like Dolby Vision, frame rate matching, and the most accurate display detection. Then, if you're using Roku in a home theater setup with multiple sources like let's say a Blu-ray player, a game console, or Apple TV as well, you might want to turn off a setting called One Touch Play under Settings, System, Control Other Devices. This is Roku's implementation of HDMI CEC, which lets the Roku control your TV's power and input switching. While it sounds pretty convenient, it can actually cause some issues in some more advanced setups. Now, for example, if the Roku goes to sleep, it might shut off your TV even while you're watching a different source. Disabling the One Touch Play gives you more reliable control and avoids unexpected behavior, especially if you're switching between sources pretty often. Now let's get into the video settings. One of the most important things that you can do is double check your Roku's display type. Roku usually auto detects the resolution and HDR format that your TV supports, but it doesn't always get it right. So go into Settings, Display Type, and make sure it's set to 4K Dolby Vision HDR or 4K HDR 60 frames per second TV, whatever your display actually supports. If your TV is capable of Dolby Vision and you're not seeing that option, it could be because of a weak HDMI handshake or because your TV input isn't set to allow full signal bandwidth. Many TVs have an HDMI enhanced or deep color setting that needs to be turned on for that input. Every brand calls it something a little bit different. LG calls it HDMI Ultra HD Deep Color, Sony uses enhanced format, and Samsung has an HDMI UHD color, and so on. But the goal is still the same. You want that HDMI input wide open for full 4K HDR at 60 frames per second. For Sony TV, you'll find this under Channels and Inputs, External Inputs, HDMI signal format. Not all HDMI inputs on your model may support the best format, so be sure your Roku is plugged into the one of the HDMI inputs that allows the enhanced format or enhanced format Dolby Vision. And for Sony TVs, you might not actually see that setting show it right away, but you can confirm after putting on some content with Dolby Vision and then checking your picture settings as it's playing. Now, once your Roku and TV are on the same page, you should also head into Settings, System, Advanced System Settings, and then go to Advanced Display Settings and look for an option called Auto Adjust Display Refresh Rate. This is one of those nerdy but really powerful features. When it's turned on, your Roku will switch the output frame rate to match the content. So a 24 frames per second movie will actually play at 24 Hz instead of being forced into 60 Hz with some motion judder. The screen might briefly go black when the refresh rate changes, but the trade-off is a much smoother and more natural motion, especially for some film content. While you're in the Advanced Display Settings menu, you might see an option for HDMI subsampling. Roku gives you the choice between 420 and 422 color formats. We'd recommend you start off at 422 color, as you'll get a much better color on the menus and other things, but if it's not working for you or if you experience some lag or some colors that are off, you can always go back to 420. And nearly all streaming services, including Netflix, Disney Plus, and Apple TV Plus, actually deliver HDR video in 420 anyways, so it's not a huge deal. And sometimes we've heard that 420 422 can actually cause some HDMI compatibility issues, especially with longer cable runs or older gear, so you can always go back to 420 no problem. Now, while you're adjusting things, don't forget to disable any motion smoothing or soap opera effect settings on your TV itself. Those can interfere with how 24p content looks, and they're usually best left off in a home theater setting. Okay, so now let's get into the audio. The first stop is settings, audio on your Roku. If you're using a Roku Ultra or streaming stick with a full surround sound system or soundbar, make sure the digital output format is set to pass-through. That will pass through the information untouched. However, if you don't see pass-through, you can always set it to auto. The auto mode will tell Roku to detect and send the correct audio format like Dolby Digital Plus, or Dolby Atmos based on what your receiver or soundbar actually supports. So start with pass-through, and if you don't see that, you can always go back and set it to auto. Another setting to watch out for is the volume mode. This one can actually be tricky because it's not in the main menu settings. Instead, you'll find it during playback by pressing the asterisk button on your remote, or also known as the options button. If volume mode is set to leveling or night, the Roku will actually downmix the audio to stereo in order to process it, which defeats the purpose of having a surround sound system. You should make sure volume mode is set to off if you're connected to an AVR or soundbar and want to hear full surround or Atmos soundtracks the way that they were intended to be heard. Now, depending on your setup, you might be routing audio in a few different ways here. The ideal scenario is Roku into your AV receiver and then video passed from your receiver to your TV. This way, your receiver gets the original audio signal and does all the decoding, whether it's 5.1, DTS, or Dolby Atmos. Just make sure your AVR supports the video formats that you're using, especially if you're watching Dolby Vision content. Now, if your receiver doesn't support the latest HDMI formats, or if you're using a soundbar, you might have your Roku connected to your TV with audio returning to your audio device via ARC or eARC. In this setup, navigate to your TV's audio output settings and look for options like digital sound out or audio output format. Set this to auto or bitstream depending on what's available. These settings allow your TV to pass the original audio signal to your sound system without unnecessary processing. You should avoid selecting PCM, as this can downmix the audio to stereo, preventing you from experiencing full surround sound or Dolby Atmos. Now, with this kind of setup, your TV becomes the middleman, so it's really important that it's passing through the signal correctly. If you're not seeing Atmos on your soundbar or receiver's display when you're playing Atmos content, you should double check that your TV supports it and that eARC is enabled. eARC provides higher bandwidth than the standard ARC, allowing for lossless audio formats in a more immersive sound experience. Now, one last tip here. Frame rate matching and high bitrate HDR can sometimes trigger weird HDMI issues like some quick blackouts, flashing, or color banding. Now, if that happens to you, the culprit is often the HDMI cable. A good, certified high-speed or even better ultra-high-speed HDMI cable is essential here, especially if you're running longer distances to a projector or AVR. Don't let a $5 cable ruin your $5,000 setup. And if you're noticing lip sync issues, you should check your AVR or TV for an audio delay setting. Sometimes video processing or TV motion smoothing can delay the video relative to the audio. A small adjustment of just 50 to 100 milliseconds is often all it takes to lock everything back in place. We actually have a lip sync video and tutorial on how to do this that you can simply play it right on YouTube on your TV and get it perfectly synced up. Now, another few bonus tips here. If you want a clean look on your Roku's home screen, go into settings, home screen, and from there you can hide or disable submenus like featured free, what to watch, or live TV. While this won't impact the performance, it can make the interface feel less cluttered and help you and your family get to your favorite apps faster. It's a really nice finishing touch, especially if your Roku is part of a larger home theater system with lots of different inputs. And while you're in those settings, it's also worth making a quick privacy adjustment that we recommend to all our clients. Go to settings, privacy, advertising, and turn on limit ad tracking. This doesn't eliminate ads entirely, but it does restrict how Roku personalizes them based on your usage and viewing data. If you prefer a bit more privacy or just want to minimize some targeted ads, it's a really easy switch to make, and it has no negative impact on the performance itself. So overall, in the end, Roku can absolutely deliver a great experience in a home theater as long as it's configured properly. So grab your remote, tweak those settings that we went over, and get ready to enjoy what your Roku is capable of. But wait, there's a few more things here. You may have everything configured for your Roku and some settings on your TV or projector after following this guide and everything that we just went through. However, there are actually more settings that you should consider changing to get the most from your setup. Even if you aren't a tech nerd like most of us here at Audio Advice, we have videos and articles that walk you through the top video calibration tips and top audio calibration tips for your gear. We go over everything from how to get your projector perfectly in focus with free test patterns to where to place your center channel for the best performance. I'll go ahead and link all of those videos down in the description below. Plus, if you're building a home theater or media room, check out our Home Theater Central page at audioadvice.com, where we have everything from our free home theater design tool to buy-in guides to installation videos and even an inspiration galleries. Now, if you have more questions, feel free to reach out to our experts at audioadvice.com and they would be happy to help you out. If you've enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a thumbs up, hitting the subscribe button, and turning on the notifications so you don't miss out on any of our latest content. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.